But first, breaking tonight, a surprisingly solid jobs report gives President Trump's economic policy a boost. Employers added 119,000 jobs in September. This news comes ahead of a meeting tomorrow between President Trump and New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, whom the president refers to as a communist. Correspondent Alexandria Hoff is live on the North Lawn of the White House with the story. Good evening, Alex.
Good evening, Brett. The economy and tomorrow's meeting both very much intertwined, as the mayor-elect says he plans to push President Trump on affordability when they meet tomorrow. It will be the first time the two adversaries come face to face.
Nearly all of this solid monthly job growth came from the private sector and went to Americans rather than foreign-born workers.
The White House crediting this aspect of the latest jobs numbers on the president's trade and immigration policies. Immigration being one of the many areas where President Trump and incoming New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani have very publicly sparred.
Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
He's a communist. He's down and dirty. He's a communist.
President Trump confirmed tomorrow's meeting, again calling the self-proclaimed Democratic Socialist a communist. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt doubling down.
It speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House, because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country.
Mayor-elect Mandani requested the sit-down, framing it today as customary.
This meeting is between 2 very different candidates who they voted for the same reason. They wanted a leader who would take on the cost of living crisis.
The Trump administration has been adamant that cost-lowering strategies will take time to bear fruit. The September jobs report shows employers added more than twice the number of jobs expected. And while unemployment did tick up to 4.4%, the Labor Department attributes this to a large number of people entering the workforce.
People are wanting to work, and that's the exciting part.
The September report was due out early last month, but was delayed due to the government shutdown. For Education Secretary Linda McMahon, the shutdown did provide one positive.
The Department of Education was not necessary during the shutdown. President Trump promised to send education back to the states, and we're keeping that promise.
Secretary McMahon speaking from the White House today about plans to shut down her department, saying that a new agreement has been made where other agencies will take over the required role that right now the Department of Education plays. Brett.
And Alex, Democratic lawmakers up in arms about this Truth Social post made by President Trump, which he states a video some members made is seditious behavior punishable by death. What's the White House saying about all that?
Yeah, so Brett, when asked today, Caroline Leavitt said that no, the president is not calling for execution. She also wanted to put into context that this video was made in response to a video, or that post was made in response to a video by some Democratic lawmakers where they had urged military members to refuse illegal orders. That's how they put it. Here's what Leavitt added in her response today.
The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging.
So Democratic leadership, they're urging the president to take that post down. He has so far not done so. Brett.
GOP senators sent a friendly warning over to Attorney General Pam Bondi. Do not slow walk the release of the Epstein files. Senator John Kennedy saying it would be a mistake to do so. I fully expect the Justice Department, he wrote, to release all the documents. It will take a while, but I believe they've started on it right now. Others speaking out, Eric Schmidt, Lisa Murkowski, and others. The clock is ticking. It's time to get those docs out. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett has just spun so hard, even the angle is dizzy. She went on CNN to try to clean up those claims that Republicans were taking political donations from Jeffrey Epstein, when it was actually a totally different guy named Jeffrey Epstein. Well, this is how it went down.
I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. My team, what they did is they Googled, and that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies. Because it was not the same one, that's fine. But when Lee Zeldin had something to say, all he had to say was it was a different Jeffrey Epstein. He admitted that he did receive donations from a Jeffrey Epstein, so at least I wasn't trying to mislead people.
Oh, my gosh. That is one of the more absurd things I've heard, and I've been in Washington for a long time. And even Caitlin Collins, listening to her, think she was buying it.
But people might see that and say, well, you're trying to make it sound like he took money from
I did not know.
a registered sex offender.
No, but I literally did not know. I made sure that I was clear that it was a Jeffrey Epstein, but I never said that it was specifically that Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. When Collins asked about Delegate Stacey Plaskett's text with Epstein, Crockett tried to make it about Trump, not the woman being coached through a hearing by a pedophile.
We knew, or she knew, or at least Jeffrey Epstein presented that he was very cozy with the president. He had more information, registered sex offender or not. The bigger question is, why is it that the president was so cozy with a registered sex offender? Why is the president of the United States not the one that is in the hot seat for his relationship?
Are we talking about Trump? The same guy who broke off his relationship with Epstein long before any of those accusations came to light? She's totally ignoring the fact that her colleague was texting with him years after he had already been in jail.
Stacey didn't initiate that chain. Jeffrey initiated that chain, and she took the information.
Do you think that was inappropriate? I mean, would you text with someone who is a registered sex offender
listen,
about what you should ask?
I honestly know that he had never been convicted of any federal crimes at that time.
But he had been in jail already.
He had been
got a
in
plea
jail.
deal.
The Democrat Party, is this your future? How is this woman even a lawyer? The only reason that Epstein didn't get the federal charges is because he got a sweetheart deal. And then things got even weirder.
Were they sexting? Was it a matter of her being involved in the pedophilia? No, it was nothing like that.
You know, Stacey Plaskett was watching this and screaming at the TV for Jazzy to just shut up. That's how bad it was. I think it was one of the more bizarre interviews we've seen from a Democrat in quite a while, but kudos to Crockett for creativity. Here to respond, Eric Trump, Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization, author of the smash #1 bestseller, the new book, Under Siege. Eric, congrats on the book. The title is apt, still is all these years later. Have you ever heard a Democrat spin like that since the Russia hoax? I mean, that was classic.
Hey, Laura, let me give you a little tip. When Caitlin Collins is on your side, you know they did something really egregious, right? Because I don't think she's been on our side ever before. The other interesting thing was the donation from the doctor came after Jeffrey Epstein was actually dead. It was like substantially later, right? I mean, can you believe that this is actually what you have in Washington, D.C., representing the American people? This is the brilliance that's supposed to be running the greatest economy anywhere in the world, the largest superpower anywhere in the world. This is our representation. I mean, it was maybe the most foolish and silly excuse ever, and I think that's going to live in the halls of YouTube. That clip, you know, in infamy. But it's hard to believe that these people have any say in our federal government, and now we actually manage our country.
Now, Eric, your friend Zohran Mamdani, mayor-elect of New York, heading to the White House tomorrow. Now, I think your dad's showing again that he keeps the door open to anyone who at least says they want to work with him. But do you think that Mandani is kind of going to use this moment to set up some scene with the media present? And if so, do you think this should be done without the media present and just the two of them, maybe their aides in a room?
Well, you know, first of all, my father loves New York, as we do as a family. And New York's gone in a totally bad direction. We all know that. You know, the election here, I mean, you have a guy who wants to defund the NYPD. You have got a guy who hates Benjamin Netanyahu and the Jewish people. You've got a guy who wants to throw Modi in jail. I mean, I could go on and on. You have a person who wants to further increase taxes and devastate New York. And, you know, he wants to nationalize grocery stores and other things. I can tell you there's a lot of people who have gone into the White House before and, you know, tried to make a scene and tried to have a big PR event. And I think most of the people got laughed out of it. I mean, we saw that with Zelensky, I think. I could probably name 25 people who went into the White House trying to be tough guys, and it didn't end up all that well for them. You know, my father's, I think, performs probably better than anybody in that moment, but we'll see. I mean, my father loves New York. He cares about New York. He wants to see the best for New York, so he would have an open door, and I'm proud of him for having an open door. I don't think this is the right direction from New York. I hope this guy is a lot more bravado than he is real action, but we'll see tomorrow. And you know, and again, this is Donald Trump at his best. You know, if the guy wants to showboat, I think, you know, he'll showboat right back. And there's no one that does that better than the commander in chief, as you know better than anybody, Laura.
well, I think that, Jesse's points are good. It's obvious that Zohran needs the money. And Trump has said he will basically bleed the city dry if he doesn't like the way things are going, that he would cut off federal funding. But Zohran has a lot of problems because he has promised the Democrat Socialists of America that he will not allow the police to work with ICE. Tish, the commissioner, has agreed to stay on, but she is a very principled person. And she has done a good job. Crime is down in New York City over the past 10 months. So she's not going to allow that to slip away from her. So he's in a rock and a hard place. He's got to figure out how he's going to maneuver all of this. And he learned quickly on the campaign trail, and he did well in the race. But he's got these, the Democratic Socialists are having these meetings saying, like, we own him. We own this guy, and we are not going to let him do whatever he wants. He is ours. So it's going to be, I think it'll be kind of funny if they get like the you're a commie, you're a fascist stuff like right out at the beginning. I also just want to remind people of, go back and listen to Mamdani's acceptance speech on election night, the second half. And in it, he basically said, we will tear down the city that created everything that created Donald Trump. We will tear down the institutions that allowed him to succeed, which is basically dismantle capitalism in New York City, because that's what allowed Donald Trump to succeed. So, it'd be interesting to know if the president, rewatch that, just like sort of let that sink in a little bit and see how this goes tomorrow.
Jessica, I was shocked in the green room that you asked, do you think that Zohran will be searched or frisked before entering the White House? And I thought that's a provocative question, but you raised a good point.
What we were actually talking about in the green room is how much easier it is to change the diaper of a baby girl than a baby boy. That is legitimately what the talk was.
That's what we were talking about.
So Mamdani has grown up real fast in the first few days since becoming mayor. So there was talk, obviously, he said, I want Jesse Tisch, who's the police commissioner, to stay on. That deal is now signed and sealed. He has been discouraging DSA members from primarying Democrats, saying Hakeem Jeffries, leave him alone. AOC has said the same thing. Richie Torres, who represents in the Bronx, Michael Blake wants to primary him. He's going against the DSA grain, saying, these primaries that are staked out over a position on Israel, that's not really good for business. And he also wants funding for all of these things that he needs Kathy Hochul to help with. And she said, not only am I not raising the personal tax rate, you're not going to get the corporate tax rate raised. So if on top of that, you're cut off from federal funds, you're in a lot of trouble.
There's no free bus.
So I think that these are two telegenic TV guys, right? Or who are good at communicating that way. I think that they will allow each other to shine to a certain degree. Like they'll get their hits in on one another. And I hope as a New Yorker that they can also have, some healthy conversation about making sure that New York can thrive and improve in certain areas. And I bet you could get a Donald Trump to say, I think universal childcare is a good idea. I think universal pre-K worked for the city. Maybe we can help out with that a little bit. And that would be my ideal scenario.
All right. I think I know this is a stretch, that there might be a smart socialist. I'm not sure. But you probably realize that socialists don't make anything. They only break things. Therefore, you need the city to exist, or you have nothing to experiment on. So he knows that it's like, I really can't, start the revolution right away, because then it's over. We don't know how to make things.
Well, like Jessica said, the campaign's over, and he's not even claiming to actually believe all the things he campaigned on. Now he's reaching for the brass ring, and he wants power, and he wants staying power. I love the montage that we just played, and it kind of reminds you of the two dogs that are barking on either side of the fence, and then somebody opens the gate, and then they're like, and they stop barking. And I think we're going to see that from Zohran, because he's a shapeshifter already. The problem is that Donald Trump is not a shapeshifter. He's going to keep barking. He's not the dog that stops barking as soon as you open the gate. And we saw that from his first inaugural address, where he came out and said, look, everything I ran on, I meant every word of it. And I'm going to, I may not get everything, but I'm going to push for everything. And it shocked the world. And that was when the impeachments began back in 2017. And so whatever happens, I hope the whole thing is open press. I don't want to miss a minute of it. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes, there'll be some awkward, let's go for a walk over here. And he'll just walk him into the construction area and just bore him to tears with, see that over there? It's going to be awesome.
Well, tomorrow, it's a highly anticipated heavyweight bout. President Donald Trump will welcome New York City's mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani to the White House. They are expected to discuss affordability, crime, and the future of New York City. Fox News catching up with the mayor-elect earlier this morning, asking if he's ready.
Being a New Yorker means that you're prepared for all situations, all kind of comments, all kind of commentary. And at the end of it, the focus has to be, what's the case that you're making? Why are you there? And for me, it's not about myself. It's not about a relationship with an individual. It's about a relationship between New York City and the White House, the president, the federal administration.
All right, joining us now to talk more about this is Elise Stefanik, New York gubernatorial candidate and a woman who, unlike the candidate in Tennessee, loves New York.
I do love New York.
I mean, everybody in the Empire State loves New York, right?
We do.
So it's going to be a very interesting tete-a-tete tomorrow. Here you've got Donald Trump, who is a born and bred New Yorker from Queens, who built much of the skyline of the city. Has lived there all his life, loves New York, and he'll be going up against a non-native mayor-elect who never built a thing, barely held a legitimate job, and now wants to throw the whole system out for socialism.
Well, it's going to be very important for New Yorkers who will be watching this closely. Obviously, President Trump loves New York State. He is a born and bred New Yorker, and even though he lives in Florida, he understands the city extremely well. He is focused on making sure that New York is affordable and safe, and despite Mamdani trying to talk about those issues, Mamdani wants to raise taxes, and he's pushing the worst governor in America, Kathy Hochul, to do so. Mamdani has been on the record over and over and over again for defunding the police. Meanwhile, you have Republicans like myself and the president who support police, who understand the importance of a robust NYPD. And you're already seeing a mass exodus. So there's a lot of discussions that need to happen. But certainly, I am very focused on making New York affordable and safe. Look at the catastrophe we have had under single-party Democrat rule, led by the worst governor in America, Kathy Hochul, who, by the way, propelled Mamdani when she endorsed him.
All right, we'll talk more about her and CDLs being given to illegal aliens. But the president is really kind of setting the table for tomorrow's meeting. Put out on Truth Social, quote, Communist mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, has asked for a meeting. We're hoping that they open this thing up to the press tomorrow because it could be Pelosi Schumer 2.0 in the Oval Office.
Well, certainly there's always surprises. I think it would be great to have it open for people to see the discussion that happens. My priority is always putting New York first and delivering results to the hardworking families of New York. What we cannot continue to see is this embrace of communism, which Mamdani has brought to the most important city in the country, and really the entire world is watching this. Again, he is going to make New York more unaffordable and less safe. He wants to raise taxes. He wants to double down on failed bail reform and defund the police. And he has made it extremely dangerous for Jewish families living in New York. The fact that he has said he will arrest Prime Minister Netanyahu, that he campaigned with unindicted co-conspirators of terrorist attacks.
I want to ask you about this because this first came to light in a different form in Oklahoma when Governor Kevin Stitt joined us to talk about an enforcement action that they were undertaking there with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. And this is another case of an illegal immigrant with a CDL from New York State being involved in a fatal truck accident. This one was in Indiana, killed an Indiana State National Guard. Let's put it up on the screen because you can see this person is a native of Georgia, the country, Gorerdzi Gujibidze. And you're very critical of Kathy Hochul for allowing this person to get a CDL.
Well, look at this. It's New York State. Under Kathy Hochul's failed leadership, illegals are able to get New York State driver's license and CDL, driving extremely heavy and dangerous trucks that has literally led to the loss of lives. This individual, this illegal, killed a National Guardsman because of Kathy Hochul's failed policies. Her #1 executive order that she signed the first day in office was making New York a sanctuary state. She also has supported what's called the Green Light Law, allowing New York State to give illegals driver's license and then not allowing federal law enforcement to have access to our New York State DMV. This is catastrophic, and this is one of many circumstances. You pointed out the previous example in Oklahoma that Governor Stitt talked about, but just this past week, there were 30 individuals as part of one of DHS's busts, which was very important, of illegals who had New York State driver's license who were arrested on an interstate in the state of New York, all because of Kathy Hochul, who prioritizes illegals rather than law-abiding New Yorkers. And this is life or death, John. We're talking about a National Guardsman who was killed because of these failed policies.
You know, the CDL that was seized in Oklahoma didn't even have the person's name on it from New York State. And apparently there was a language problem, too, because this from the Boone County Sheriff. Due to the language barrier with Mr. Gujabidze, he was transported to the Boone County Sheriff's Office afterwards to meet with a translator. So, again, I mean, this is like the two Indian illegal immigrants who were involved in these crashes. They didn't speak the language, didn't even read the road signs.
Right. It's dangerous for Americans. It's dangerous for law-abiding New Yorkers. And we need a governor, and I hear this from Republicans, Democrats, and independents, who's putting New Yorkers' affordability and safety first. That's not what Kathy Hochul is doing. She is an accidental governor. She's the worst governor in America. And what's more interesting, John, before Kathy Hochul was in this position, she was a county clerk. At that time, she opposed driver's license for illegals. She's done a complete 180 to bow and bend the knee to the radical left, pro-illegal, pro-criminal socialist party that has taken over the New York Democrat Party.
All right, well, we'll be watching this issue as you continue the campaign, and we're awaiting the big meeting with Mamdani and President Trump tomorrow.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for joining us. Good luck in the campaign trail. It's going to be a long one.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Sometimes tragedy brings people together. Today, Kamala was reunited with AutoPen. They were spotted together at Dick Cheney's memorial service, and you could feel the tension in the pews. Biden walked in, and immediately it got awkward. The big guy was looking down and around, everywhere but at his former VP. Kamala was waiting for a hello, an acknowledgement, anything. She was like, man, he really is old. He forgot who I am. But Biden put his arm out and shook her hand and said, nice to see you, Kamala. That's it. That's what a lip reader told the Daily Mail. Dr. Jill said he wasn't ignoring you, baby girl. Relax. Harris was wagging her finger. I know he wasn't. I was thinking you're going to look at me, but he didn't. And where was Doug? Probably at spin class, breaking a sweat and taking a schwitz. During the funeral, Kamala and Jill barely talked. The doctor broke the ice, but it didn't look that friendly. Remember, Jill was anti-Kamala from the jump. She called her husband racist. But she was loyal to Joe. She didn't throw him under the bus. That was Barack and Nance. Even though everyone wanted her to, they still do. Kamala, 2 days ago, was still defending the big guy.
I feel like it was incumbent upon him to say to you, you go do what you need to do. If you need to throw me under the bus on a few things, you go do that, because we got to beat this mother. And instead, he did the opposite of that.
I just have to be very candid. For the sake of my own well-being and sanity, that's not where I'm focused.
Kamala wrote a gossip book trashing Joe, and she doesn't want to talk about him anymore on her book tour. Biden must have gotten to her. He's all ego. He said from the start that Kamala couldn't win, and he still thinks he would have won if Barry hadn't staged the coup. Biden's inner circle says it wasn't Joe who needed an IQ test. It was the Democrat Party.
I thought the Democratic Party lost its mind. That's what I thought.
The Democratic Party lost its mind. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is I thought that Joe Biden was the best candidate. I thought he was the most likely person to be elected president. I thought he would be the best president. On the day he got out of the race, he was behind Trump by 3 points. I thought he was disloyal. I thought it was an act of betrayal against the president.
Good thing Barack Hussein Obama wasn't there, or else the church would have blown up. A few weeks ago, Barack and Joe snubbed each other at Cafe Milano. It was the snub heard round the world. Where's Barack? Where's Michelle? This is Michelle's third straight no-show. She snubbed Jimmy Carter's funeral and the inauguration and blamed it on scheduling conflicts. The only thing Michelle's been busy with is her podcast. She's out there calling the country sexist, said America isn't ready to vote for a woman, told us we need to grow up. But she can't spare a few minutes to pay her respects? She must have known Nancy was going to be there. Nance has been talking smack.
I respect her, and I know that view is one that we all are saddened by, but I think we have to change. The fact is that I've heard every excuse in the book. I thought the American people were much more ready for a woman president. Just the thought of it's so exciting. And the message it sends to the world.
Nancy isn't alone. Stephen A. is saying, don't you point your finger at us, girl.
Didn't we just see Abigail Spanberger
win in Virginia, the gubernatorial seat? Isn't Kathy Hochul the governor of New York? Am I missing something? Don't look at this country and point to men and act like we wouldn't vote for you. Yes, we would. Yes, we would. Run, Michelle, run.
Remember, Stephen A. wasn't happy when Barack wagged his fingers at the base. Now the Obamas are back at it, calling him sexist. Nancy has more beef, and she's letting it all out. She's fuming at Hillary.
Why go now?
Why did I retire?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've been eager to sort of go into another phase of life for a while. I thought Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016, and the Affordable Care Act would be intact, and our country would be in great hands. She was so qualified, and then that didn't happen, so we had to stay to make the fight.
Look at it this way, Nancy. You stayed in office for 10 more years and made $100 million. I'm sure Paulie P. has no regrets. I guess Hillary's the reason Pelosi has such bad TDS. And it's not looking great for Nance. It's starting to spread to her bones.
You said that President Trump was a vile creature, the worst thing on the face of the earth. Do you think he's different now than he was in his first term in terms of his abilities, his leadership?
By the way, I said that as a euphemism. I could have done much worse.
You could have done worse. You could have said worse.
Yeah.
Every day, your chances of surviving this terminal case of TDS get worse.
Donald Trump is the worst president of the United States for America's children. The worst president American children have ever had. President Trump is the biggest con job in American history.
It's not just Nancy losing her mind. Chronic TDS is plaguing the whole party.
First of all, you. You to the highest order of you that you can be. Don't you ever ask me about that, you. And second of all, your guy hosted a live golf tournament in the shadow of the towers with the Saudis and palled around with them. So again, let me repeat myself. Yahoo.
When most people suffer from an affliction, their doctors tell them to cut out the cause. But if you're in politics or the media, you can't cut out Donald Trump. So it eats you alive day after day after day. Raising Cain and his ponytail think they found a cure, even though it's been tried twice. The I word.
In these times of challenge and controversy, we stand for the remedy that can make the difference and maintain the democracy, and that remedy is impeachment. Impeachment. But that's not enough. That's not enough. Impeachment we must do.
Maybe impeachment is like the vaccine. You need 2 shots and a booster. The left so triggered that Kamala's book tours turned into a therapy session.
Obviously, the book is about these 107 days, and it's a little traumatic for all of us. I mean, not to make this about me. I think this is probably true for everybody in here.
How are you feeling? How you doing?
Thank you. I just wanted you to win so bad.
Since the cross-legged Messiah isn't performing miracles, Kamala's going to church and praying for one.
I'm taking us to church.
Amen.
And we have the power. And we will take our power. We are strong. We love our country. We care about community. And we love the South.
You know who should be saying his prayers? Chuck, the Palestinian. Better start saying Allah Akbar.
Look at where Chuck Schumer is. He's underwater with Democrats in the most recent Fox News poll, -2 points. But at this point, Hakeem Jeffries is running over 30 points better with Democrats nationally than Chuck Schumer is. The anger on the left is much more so against Chuck Schumer than it is against Hakeem Jeffries.
Chuck and Hakeem better watch out. Raising Cain wants to trade his cane for a sombrero.
No, I have not spoken to Democratic leadership. I am a liberated Democrat. Now,
We're looking at Democratic leadership right here.
There's that Kane cameo. We all know this isn't Al Green's party, and it's not Barack's, Biden's, or Kamala's. The party belongs to Kwame the Commie, and the Commie Caucus is kicking off a Dem bloodbath. They're predicting at least 30% of House Democrats could get primaried. That number might turn out to be even higher. The Commie Caucus is licking their chops. People's hair's on fire. They just feel like they've got to do something. People are pissed, they're sad, they're concerned. It's going to be a bloodbath, they're saying. Tomorrow, the face of the revolution enters the biggest arena of all, the Oval Office, where he'll come face to face with capitalism.
Tomorrow, we have a communist coming to the White House because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country. I think it's very telling, but I also think it speaks to the fact that President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people, whether they live in blue states or red states.
The commie's the one who requested the meeting. That's smart. MSNBC is like, why would you do that?
What is your goal for a meeting with Donald Trump? What do you want to come out of a meeting with Donald Trump?
I want to just speak plainly to the president about what it means to actually stand up for New Yorkers and the way in which New Yorkers are struggling to afford this city.
Mandani hasn't even been sworn in yet, and his plans are already falling apart.
A political showdown headed straight for the Oval Office now. We could see some fireworks or maybe some smiles, maybe a little bit of both, some diplomacy between these two men. President Trump will meet tomorrow with New York City's mayor-elect, Democrat socialist Zohran Mamdani, a man he has called a communist and a danger to America. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. The president made the announcement on Truth Social, writing this. Communist mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, has asked for a meeting. We have agreed that this meeting will take place at the Oval Office on Friday, November 21st. Mandani spoke about it this morning.
I have many disagreements with the president, and I believe that we should be relentless and pursue all avenues and all meetings that could make our city affordable for every single New Yorker. I intend to make it clear to President Trump that I will work with him on any agenda that benefits New Yorkers.
President Trump has threatened to yank federal funding from his former hometown of New York City if Mamdani were to win, and he did. He even threw his weight behind Andrew Cuomo, who finished a distant second. He had to run as an independent because he lost in the primary as a Democrat to Mamdani. Now, after months of vicious verbal attacks on one another, the two men will share the same space.
The last thing we need is a communist. He's a total nut job.
That there is no borough that will be free from Trump's cruelty.
The Mandani thing is it's a disaster waiting to happen.
This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one.
He's a communist. He's not a socialist, by the way. There's a big difference. He's a communist. He's down and dirty. He's a communist.
My administration would be Donald Trump's worst nightmare.
But we know President Trump can talk to anybody at any time. Peace breaking out in the Middle East with his 20-point plan that just passed the United Nations. And now this here at home. Alexandria Hoff is at the White House with a preview of the big meeting tomorrow. Alexandria.
Hey, Harrison, you know, this is a realm that President Trump has plenty of experience with. It was really his past disputes with New York City mayors that helped shape his political ambitions, his political style, dating all the way back to Ed Koch in the 80s, where Donald Trump, the citizen, would see something being done, knew that there was a better way to get something done, and maybe his way would be best. Now, this is a bit different, though. The difference is that President Trump has with Mayor-elect Mamdani aren't just permits or construction projects. They are fundamental. He's concerned about New York City's future. Before the meeting was locked in, the president said this weekend he wants to do what he can to help.
The mayor of New York, I will say, would like to meet with us, and we'll work something out. But he would like to come to Washington and meet, and we'll work something out. We want to see everything work out well for New York.
Now, on election night, Mamdani said once again that his administration would be Trump's worst nightmare, as you have played. But on tomorrow's meeting, he has taken a bit of a different tone. His statement here, quote, as is customary for an incoming mayor administration, the mayor-elect plans to meet with the president in Washington to discuss public safety, economic security, and the affordability agenda that over 1 million New Yorkers voted for just 2 weeks ago. He added this morning.
I know that for tens of thousands of New Yorkers, this meeting is between two very different candidates who they voted for the same reason. They wanted a leader who would take on the cost of living crisis that makes it impossible for working people to afford living in this city.
Now, no details have been revealed yet on the timing of tomorrow's meeting, but this will be the first time that the two come face to face. Paris.
Alexandria, thank you for that. Ben Domenech is here, Fox News contributor and host of the Big Ben Show podcast. Great to see you. So I mentioned this just moments ago, and Alexandria went deep on this as well. This is the president's style. He talks with everybody all the time. How do you think this goes tomorrow?
Well, I think it's going to be kind of a cat and mouse game a little bit between the two of them. Mamdani obviously is somebody who has known for a while that he was in all likelihood going to become the next mayor of New York City. So he's not necessarily the surprise candidate that he was initially when he won that primary and set himself on this road. He's had time to think about how to approach this scenario, and obviously, regardless of the rhetoric that he used on election night, I think he knows that he needs the president and a good relationship with this administration if he's going to have the hope of holding on to any of the millions and millions of dollars that flow from the federal government into New York City currently, dollars that are going to be key, especially when it comes to his ambitious agenda. But personally, I think this is going to be most interesting to see how President Trump assesses someone who probably wouldn't exist without the existence of President Trump in the first place. Mamdani is in many ways a response, a reflection from the far left wing of this backlash to Donald Trump. He's the first candidate, I think, who truly represents that in a new generational way. And because of that, I think it's going to be an interesting back and forth between the two of them. And we'll see what Trump takes of him when it comes to the measure of the man.
What in particular are you watching for this in terms of issues? You've got this issue of affordability, which Mamdani says he won on, but interestingly enough, a lot of rich people voted for him, both in the primary and in the election that we just saw where he is now the mayor-elect. So what do you think about that?
Zohran Mamdani is only the mayor of New York because of that champagne socialist set that funded his effort in so many different ways. And I think that he knows deep down that's the truth. So we can talk about affordability. That's the kind of thing that obviously appeals to the narrative about who he is. But he also understands the way that this is actually going to go in terms of his political future, which is that he needs those wealthy people to stay in New York, to essentially cut deals with him in order to leave them alone, not come after them. That's going to be the kind of thing that might rile some of his socialist base, but it's also just the reality of what has to happen once you win an election like that.
Well, an epic faceplant for Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Critics are going after her, mocking her for accusing EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin of taking campaign donations from Jeffrey Epstein, meaning the dead sex trafficker and convicted pedophile. Watch.
Folks who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly: Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio.
So maybe she had someone who had not graduated from junior high do some of her research. We don't know. The problem is with all of that, the donor was an entirely different Jeffrey Epstein. Zeldin clapped back with this. Yes, Crockett, a physician named Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who is a totally different person than the other Jeffrey Epstein, donated to a prior campaign of mine. No freaking relation, you genius. All of that. Crockett's wild attempt to defend herself just dug the hole deeper, so much deeper.
I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled, and that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies.
Wait a minute. Critics blew up on social media after that. So she had them Googled. They didn't even use AI. Okay, that discussion for another day. One user with the donation Zeldin received from a Dr. Jeffrey Epstein came after the predator Jeffrey Epstein allegedly took his life in prison. Crockett is a total imbecile. Another with this. What an uninformed goofball she made herself out to be. And some suggest it was not just a mistake. She's not stupid. She was deliberately misleading. Here she is brazenly admitting it. So which do you think it is? She's incompetent, didn't do her facts, had somebody just simply Google, or do you think this is strategy on her part?
Jeffrey Epstein, the financier or the doctor? No, this actually matters. I mean, the actual question here is I mean, and by the way, pour one out for the poor fellow who has to go through life with the same shared name. But the idea that you would have some kind of spin that this was some type of 4D chess that she was doing, no, she and her staff were just being very, very stupid about this thing. This is also a common mistake. And look, you know, I think that in the sense of things that you find online, there are all sorts of people who go viral for claims like this that are ridiculous all the time, that even a few seconds of research would reveal to you falls apart. The fact that she included donations to Zeldin that came after the predator Jeffrey Epstein died in prison, is particularly absurd. And she owes an apology to every single person that she claimed falsely on the floor to have taken money in this instance. I doubt we're going to get it, though, because she just has the same attitude that a lot of these young folks have within the left, which is, I can say anything and I will just see people boost me up, give to my campaigns, because it doesn't matter how dumb it is, it's still fighting the right.
Well, and this woman has been talked about as possibly running for the Senate. She needs to take those lack of skills in terms of research and knowing the actual facts someplace else, because that's not going to fly.
Absolutely. And I think that, while she has huge political ambitions, this is just another sign of why some of the people who are in that faction don't succeed outside of the world of TikTok and the like, where their claims can just go viral without actually being questioned. And the spin that she put on this is just absolutely ludicrous. I don't believe it for a second, and no thinking person does.
Well, and it's bizarre that she would think that she doesn't have to even try to correct that now, other than to say that's why she said a Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, okay. Last quick one on this, though, and that's that thought that, well, if you put it out there, maybe somebody will believe it. Nobody else is fact-checking anyway. There is a portion of the population, the voting population, that will fall for this.
Yeah, I just think that they need to go back and look at Office Space with Michael Bolton, or understand the difference between the big Lebowski and the other Lebowski before they make any judgment calls on this. But the truth is, you're right, Harris. There are a lot of people who won't even stay for that and will assume on some level that what she was saying was true, even if it was false.
Ben Domenech, great to have you. Thank you.
How do you avoid being cocky in the Oval Office? You're on his turf, but he could attack. What's the plan?
Well, I think being a New Yorker means that you're prepared for all situations, and I will look to make clear that my interest goes beyond any one of an individual. It's for the people that I look to represent. That's the case I'll make.
The transition team for the mayor-elect says he will speak to the president about the issue of affordability. Hopefully this will be open press tomorrow, because it will be very interesting to see. Mamdani making that a cornerstone of his campaign, vowing to freeze rent and make buses free under his watch. But these policies are being ridiculed by Republicans who called the plans a progressive pipe dream.
I can't imagine why anybody would think that meeting would be so interesting, John. Jerry Baker wrote about Mamdani's victory in New York City, warning it is a gift the president must unwrap carefully. He will join us live right here on America Reports in moments.
I think it's got the potential to be Pelosi-Schumer 2.0. We'll see. But we begin with Alexandria Hoff. She's live at the White House, where the briefing is going to start soon. Alexandria?
Hi, good to be with you guys. Yeah, when you talk about this gift potentially that the president must unwrap carefully, I mean, carefully indeed. New York City is a city that he loves, that is called home. The president does not want to see a failure in leadership there to prove a point. And actually, when you kind of played some of the sound bites from the mayor-elect and the president, on the mayor-elect's side, you've heard some of his language be toned down today, kind of in anticipation of this meeting, saying he wants to work with the president, find ways they can work together, even went as far as to say that the two of them were elected for similar reasons, for public safety, affordability. Clearly, the voter base has different ideas of what that looks like. So this will definitely be an interesting meeting. And it's a realm that the president is very familiar with. I mean, he's had these public feuds or debates with New York City mayors since the early 80s. In many ways, it has shaped his political ambitions, his political style. So this is not new territory for the president. We're hoping we'll get some clarification on the timing for tomorrow's meeting. It's definitely going to be one to watch. If there is press availability, John, you mentioned that would be certainly interesting. We don't know if it will be. Something else we expect to hear today is about the jobs numbers. There was better than expected jobs numbers coming out today. That's for September. It was due to come out in early October because of the shutdown. That did not happen, so they are coming out today. Shows 119,000 jobs were added. That is more than twice what was anticipated. With that, though, there is a slight uptick when it comes to unemployment, but more people enter the job force, so that could seem to balance out. We're likely to hear more about that today. Something else that might come up is the U.S. draft of the Russia-Ukraine peace plan. There's some criticism coming from the European side on that, so we'll see what comes out of the briefing, set to start any minute now. John, Sandra, send it back to you.
As I mentioned at the top, it looks like Linda McMahon's going to be coming out to talk about cuts to the education department. So, got a lot on your plate today. Alex, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Sandra?
All right, Jerry Baker is here, editor-at-large for the Wall Street Journal and a Fox News contributor. Jerry, we need you ahead of this meeting because you said in your Wall Street Journal piece this: Mamdani is a gift, which Trump should unwrap carefully. You say you couldn't design a better far-left foil, but you also say his voters' frustrations are real and serious. Explain.
Yeah, well, thanks very much indeed, Sandra. Look, I mean, that does capture it, I think. There's no question that Zohran Mamdani, as the face of the Democratic Party, is an extraordinary gift to Republicans, and particularly Donald Trump. Donald Trump is extremely good at defining his opponents. Well, it's one of his great successes, you know, whether he's calling them, Sleepy Joe or Crooked Hillary. He's really good. And that I would expect, I don't know if he's got a nickname yet for Zohran Mamdani, but it doesn't matter. Mamdani is a far left, he calls him a communist. He's a far left socialist who believes in the most radical things, all kinds of socialist ideas that have been proven not to work. And if he tries to implement them in New York City, it will be a disaster. But he is nonetheless, he can be portrayed as the face of the Democratic Party. But I think a lot of Democrats will spend the next 2 years running away from Mamdani as Trump tries to probably successfully tie them to Mamdani. The reason I say it's a gift, though, that has to be unwrapped carefully is, again, as you say, this issue of affordability, which we know is right now a real vulnerability for the president, for the Republican Party. Approval ratings on the economy for the president are very, very low. And it is driven by this concern about prices, the fact that things are very, 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 very expensive for most Americans right now. Mamdani was elected in large part because of that. Mamdani wasn't elected because the people of New York, although they can be pretty crazy, let's be honest, I'm here in New York, they can say and believe some crazy things. They didn't elect him because they wanted a communist or a socialist as their mayor. They elected him because, especially younger people, because they're furious with what they see as prices being out of reach, housing costs being out of reach, groceries costs being incredibly expensive. So he's got to handle Mamdani, by all means, portray him as the socialist that he is. Mamdani will say and do things that President Trump will be able to demonstrate are far from the mainstream of the American people. But he's also got to handle this in a way that demonstrates that he does understand that Americans are really facing an affordability crisis.
By the way, I do believe President Trump has given him somewhat of a nickname. I've heard Mamdani the commie come from President Trump's mouth a couple times. This is Mamdani, who's also, by the way, taking heat from his supporters for meeting with the president. Here he is explaining the reason why he's accepting the meeting. Listen.
My team reached out to the White House to set up this meeting because I will work with anyone to make life more affordable for the more than 8.5 million people who call this city home. I intend to make it clear to President Trump that I will work with him on any agenda that benefits New Yorkers. If an agenda hurts New Yorkers, I will also be the first to say so.
So where do you believe there could be room for the two of them to discuss working together for the betterment of New York City?
It's pretty hard to see right now. Look, as you said in your introduction, and John said it too, that the president has an interest in seeing New York succeed. It's the largest city in America. It's got all kinds of economic and other problems, but it's still a source of, enormous amount of economic activity and a source of wealth for the country. He takes a very close interest in what's going on, not only in New York real estate market, which right now is in reasonably good shape, but also, of course, in the financial markets, which the main ones are located here in New York City. So, there will be. President Trump will want to see that whatever Mamdani does isn't causing tremendous economic damage, and his proposals to raise taxes on rich people, not that he can probably get them through, by the way, but that's his proposal anyway, to expand the public sector here in New York City. Those are things that the president is going to have to, is going to watch very closely, because he can't afford to see New York City harmed. Obviously, the big source of tension, I think, between the two will be around immigration. Mamdani has in the past. He's kind of eased off some of these things during the campaign, but he said some very critical things about the administration, and he said some very favorable things about illegal immigrants, and indeed, he made a big point even in his campaign acceptance speech, in his victory speech on election night, saying, this was a victory for immigrants. So, when the administration tries to crack down on illegal immigration, on the number of illegal migrants here, that's going to be a source of tensions. But look, it's good that they're sort of coming together in a spirit of cooperation, trying to make things work. It's important for the country. But I think before long, we'll see that Mamdani will position himself and will be taken by Donald Trump to be the face of the Democratic Party.
Jerry Baker, always so good. Thank you so much. Previewing what will be a big meeting and a big day tomorrow.
Host of the Sage Steele Show, Sage Steele. What do you expect tomorrow, Sage?
I would pay good money to be a fly on that wall, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
First of all, I'm going to try to do the right thing here for 10 seconds and give credit where credit is due, because he did what? He requested the meeting with President Trump, which is more than the current New York City mayor did. It took him 2 years to realize, hey, at least align yourself with the guy, even if you don't like, just fake it. So Mandani isn't even in office yet, he's doing it from there. So that's impressive, right?
Yeah.
Probably where I will leave it, though, especially because just 2 months ago, wasn't he saying that his administration would be Trump's worst nightmare?
Oh, boy.
And now 2 months later, he's doing this. I mean, big picture, it is smart, but I would pay anything to see him trying to convince Donald Trump that socialism is the way to run the city that Donald Trump partially helped build. So
he just wants his money. He just wants the money, right? Because Trump said you're cut off if you get fresh,
right?
Or if you start building communist-run grocery stores.
Do you think he'll go in, because the second he got elected, he has those commercials, right, that were beautifully produced. So maybe he'll say, "Hi, Mr. President, beautiful office, love the Rose Garden, love all the new things you're doing with the White House, but I need $4 million before January 1st. Maybe you can help me out, help me raise the money."
I love that big, beautiful ballroom. Can we go on a tour? And while we're there, do you have any checks for New York?
Exactly.
All right, well, so he's kind of trying to do the right thing. The rest of the Democratic Party is at war. Nancy's at war with Michelle. Kamala and Joe barely speaking to each other. Stephen A's mad at everybody.
Well, if that's the case, then forget it. It's all a disaster. Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, I actually thought about this, the last couple of weeks, watching the implosion really live and in person. And it almost goes back to 2008, because the Democrats have gotten very complacent. They've gotten used to being able to do whatever the hell they want to do.
Yep.
And you had Barry in office for 8 years. It was all good. Shock when Trump got in. Then let's make sure that we don't let that happen again in 2020, which they did a very good job of making sure of that.
Did.
And then they thought we were all idiots for the last 4 years watching Joe Biden and thinking you could slide Kamala Harris in there. So I think it's a true panic, because they're used to getting their way.
They're having to work for it. For the first time, they don't have Barack Obama descending from the heavens and making everything good. They don't have the media. They don't have big tech anymore. They're actually having to earn votes.
What a concept. And in the meantime, you have Jasmine Crockett and her new wig every single day out there as the face of your party. I always thought the Democrats were so smart. Didn't like them, but respected the way that they ran campaigns. They were super smart in 08 with Obama, getting in deep with social media, Facebook. They don't know how to handle adversity.
No.
And it is showing right now.
They're soft.
They are so soft, and they're being exposed. And I will say, we're getting used to the Jill Biden, Kamala Harris icy moments. It's so entertaining. I kind of like it.
I feel bad, because it is at a memorial service, and you're not supposed to be like throwing back drinks and backslapping, but you sit next to someone, you got to talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, again, fake it. You guys have gotten really good at that, but apparently not in those moments when they know the camera's on them. Jimmy Carter's funeral, same thing.
I know.
They can't do it. These ladies and men.
And men.
And men. You guys too.
Us too?
I mean, not us.
It's more. No, we're good. It's mostly the ladies.
Them.
It's them. It's them. Thanks very much, Sage Steele. Good to see you too.
Thanks.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.